Dad, so corny.
You.
Yeah.
Corny Dads are back in the building. Yeah, that was on point. That's one of the first times he was on point with that joint.
Marvelous is this. There's something different about Marvelous, man.
I feel like I'm always on point to what Snug is talking about. I'm not sure,
man.
This guy.
No.
You got an iPhone.
I thought we was in.
I thought everybody had iPhones.
I hope Apple's cutting y'all some checks the way y'all pushing it. All right, cool.
Oh, we know which one doesn't have it.
That's what I'm saying.
Welcome to Corny Dads, where we showcase modern-day fatherhood and providing resources to young fathers and men. We just some corny dudes doing some dope things for our dope kids.
Dad, say it again.
I'm CJ Snuggy Harris.
And I'm Yogi Den Namaste.
And now I'm Oz. Catch me on TikTok. Corny Dad, OJC.
OJC.
Man of many hats, Chico to some, Ace to these gentlemen, and Papa to my children. And I'm also a Samsung Android user, if you didn't know.
That's crazy.
Yo.
That's a fun fact.
Speaking of many hats, I had to join the crew today, man. I had to put a hat on. We the Mad Hatters, you know what I mean?
Hey.
So, how you guys feeling today?
I feel good, man.
Feeling good, man.
It's a new moon, so I'm a little tired.
Are you?
But but I'm good. I'm in here with the Corny Dads. I'm getting the energy from you guys, so I'm live.
Well, you being a corny dad over the weekend, right? It was
I was doing a lot over
your
the weekend.
your princess's birthday.
Birthday, yeah.
You know?
Mentor, the mentor guys, took them out, the mentees out to Kutztown University.
That's it.
You know what I mean? Yeah, it's been a long weekend, but we here. That's work.
Let's work.
So, I just wanted to talk about like the we had our first guest. If you guys weren't able to tune in, Miss Anika Simmons. She's a physician assistant certified. She made sure we said that. Who worked for Planned Parenthood for 15 years, and we kind of tackled postpartum depression. We spoke a lot about that. She gave us a lot of information. If you guys didn't catch that episode, please go catch that because it's a lot of educational information that she gave us.
Sure.
She provided us with a lot of resources that you guys can probably find on our pages or under the YouTube links. But just to piggyback off of what she talked about, towards the end of the episode, we kind of started talking about just how postpartum affects fathers. So let's dive into what it looks like just from our experiences about postpartum depression in men. Paternal postpartum depression is what they call it, is the medical term. It is a medical term.
And we had somebody in the medical field said it was real.
It's real.
So we're not making this up.
Right.
No, definitely not making this up, man. And once again, even though it's not an official diagnosis, it is being studied clinically. And listen, they're saying like 1 in 4 dads are suffering from this. So this is something that we really have to start paying attention to. This is not just something like, it'll be here, then it'll be gone. No, this is a real thing that's going to be here and it's going to stay here because, like she said, postpartum is unavoidable. It's not something that we could avoid or try to catch in the beginning. If a mother suffers from depression, she's going to suffer from it. And most of the mothers that suffer from PPD, the fathers will eventually suffer from PPD.
And the reason why it's so important is because, and if you guys allow me to talk about my experience that I had at the Womb-ish Center.
Let's talk about it.
With Miss Christine, Dion, and Bianca.
Shout out to Womb-ish.
Yeah, so
Big
I
shout
had
out to Womb-ish.
Yeah, absolutely. I had the liberty of joining a postpartum training class. All right, so just before the episode, and I was in a room with 8 couples that were in prenatal right now and about to deliver soon. And I watched the postpartum training, and then we got to a section about postpartum and dads. And I took my time and I scanned the room and I just looked at the fathers. And, this is something that they never heard of. And I looked at the mothers, and you can kind of tell that they were like, is this like even a real thing? And so that's how we know it's such an extremely important topic. And I was able to share an experience of mine inside of the room, very vulnerable situation I talked about, and if you guys don't mind, I'll share it. My son was born, and I suffered from postpartum depression. I didn't even know, right? I didn't even know that I was suffering from it until I started to research, right? Because I felt at a time that when my son was born, all of the attention went to my son, right? I mean, and I'm not even talking about 95%. I'm talking about 100%. And what I didn't realize at the time was, my partner was suffering from postpartum anxiety. Okay, so and with postpartum anxiety, and I didn't, of course, I'm suffering from postpartum depression. She's suffering from postpartum anxiety, and what that looks like in her is that she's not letting him go, right, because of fear that something could happen to him, right? And with that being said, I'm left by myself, right? And my love language is words of affirmation and quality time. So and acts of service, right? So those things immediately went from 100% to 0%, which then left me in a very vulnerable stage where I thought I was losing my relationship. I was losing the compassion that I would normally get from my partner was all given to my son, which then caused me to what? Resent my son. Right? Because now I'm feeling a sense of jealousy towards my son, which then made me retreat from my home. So after I retreat from my home, now it causes an even bigger disconnect within the relationship, then cause static in our relationship. So it is very important for us to get the education and then understand how important these terms are and what to do. And we're going to talk a little bit about that, what to do in these situations in just a few moments.
But Yogi, one of the things that we need to make clear, right, is that a report in the Journal of the American Medical Association found that 10% of men worldwide show signs of depression from the first trimester. Wow. Right? So not even post. We're talking about pre, right? So from their wife's pregnancies, right? And then the number spiked to 26% during the 3 to 6 month period after the baby is born, right? Post.
Real. Yes.
So the postpartum, what you're saying was that what you felt was real. Like,
it's a real thing.
It's a real thing. It's a real thing. So, man, I don't know if I went through it or not. I don't know.
Right,
like, it's just one of those things that I guess I wasn't really in tune with my feelings like that at the time. But I don't know if I went through it or not. This is just one of those things that, I hear about. I see it, right? Now through a different lens, right? I'm like, okay, I understand what's happening to him. Because I'm getting the calls, right? Us as men, we're getting the calls now, right? I feel like we have friends, we have family that are now, they're just starting to have children. And we're starting to get the phone calls, right? And I'm like, that's postpartum, bro.
That's postpartum.
This is how you deal with it. This is how you manage it, right? Which is something that Anika shared with us, which is we have to be a resource for other men, right?
We have to be a resource.
Yeah. And the beauty of it is we're not 80 years old giving this information, right?
Right.
Which is totally different, which you shared in the last episode, Snug.
Right.
But we're giving them real life, real time information with what's going on with the rest of the world and where society is progressing now, which is share your feelings.
Share your feelings.
Share your feelings, express it.
Nah, definitely. And listen, we have to understand that we're not making this something taboo anymore. It's over for that.
Yeah.
We have to have emotional intelligence moving forward because this is it's a destructive pattern. Then the same pattern that you went through when your son was born was the same pattern I went through. Feeling neglected, feeling like a second-class citizen in my own home. My son was born under certain circumstances where he was in the NICU for an additional 3 weeks. He came early. So I understood what my wife was going through as far as, having that type of anxiety, not allowing him to be, anyone to caress him or hold him. But it was frustrating to me because I wanted to be a part of it because I know for me, not growing up with a father figure, I said, hey, I'm not going to repeat this. I'm going to break this cycle. So I wanted to be overbearing. I wanted to be there, but I wasn't allowed to, which allowed me to be frustrated, which allowed me to be overwork and leave the home, which caused that. So it's the same pattern, and I think it's the same pattern that a lot of new dads might be going through right now. So we have to be observant of what's going on around us and seek the information. And I think this is a good starting point.
But what I think you both alluded to was you both decided to retreat.
Yep.
Yes. Yes.
So one thing that Ms. Anika stated was that men are biologically composed the same way women are composed.
Indeed.
So in regards to even hormones, like women think, or the world sees us as not being as hormonal as women, but we are. So what happens biologically when a woman has a baby to a man is that we have decreased testosterone, increased estrogen, and then we have increased oxytocin, which is the love hormone. So I went through the same thing you guys went through. So I needed her more than she thought I needed her. But now here my boy is. He's here. He needs her just as much. So when I didn't get that from her, I retreated. But my retreat was just in a form of entertainment. Like, not even nothing like sexual. But it took a toll on our relationship as a whole. It created a dynamic to where it kind of like led us to the point of separation and all of that stuff. So I needed that. My love language is physical touch, but he's like, for 6 weeks I can't be touched the way I want to be touched. You know what I'm saying?
Baby.
But outside of my normal needs of being physically touched, I had increased oxytocin. When somebody touches me, that's a form of affection, right? It's a that's how I feel loved. So for me to see like him, like, you know what I'm saying?
He getting all the sauce.
He getting all the love.
He getting all the sauce and all the boob. You know what I'm saying? I think Martin had a bit in I think it's You So Crazy or even Run Tell That, where he was talking about how he was jealous of his daughter because she was just like breastfeed. Like, that's a real thing. It's like, dang, dog, them Jones come out for you and not me.
And the kid cuts the eyes at you.
Like, you see me.
And he grabbed a little harder.
Like, I dare you.
Yo.
So, but those, like, biologically, it happens. So, even being apologetic to today, sometimes it's not enough because we went through those changes of postpartum. And I'm not saying my postpartum was any different than hers. Hers was obviously more severe, or it could have been, but it just had an impact on just my role as a man, just by the norms that society places on us. We're supposed to take it in stride. Like you guys, we did an episode, even though I wasn't here, called Man Up. We talked about those norms and what it means to man up. We're not allowed that space to be vulnerable or transparent, and even to the point in the workforce. So you talked about the study. In England in 2018, they did a study where they granted men the same paternity leave as women because they felt that it was equally necessary. So when you talk about equal rights and women want to be equal, men want to be equal too, especially in the workforce.
Yeah, we do.
So in America, our national average of maternity leave is 11 weeks. This is the national average. For men, it's 1 week. So we don't get that time to connect. So being disconnected from our child sometimes is detrimental to not just our relationship with our child or our connection with our child, but also to our spouse.
The family unit.
The family unit, yes.
The family unit. Because that's where the real disconnect happens.
Right.
Because if now you're disconnected from the mom, then guess what? Now you're disconnected from the child.
Right.
You retreating from your home is what ultimately starts to break down that whole family dynamic. Right? So again, when you're talking about you only have a week, when some women, they got months. And depending on what country you're in, you have a whole year.
Which is Canada.
You have a whole year to be with your child, right? Where's that connection? I think, me personally, I think you should be with your family during that time.
Absolutely.
That entire year, men should have the opportunity to be with their family.
Absolutely.
And let's not get things misconstrued. We agree with the fact that women, especially in the U.S., they do need a lot of time for maternity leave. They should get even more because, like you said before, Canadians get a year.
1 year.
Yeah.
Women in the U.S. get 12 weeks.
It's not enough.
Fathers a week. That makes it too easy for us to retreat. And a lot of times, especially in our communities, we have the issue with fight or flight, right? Baby comes, you begin to have issues within your household. There's some men that retreat and never come back.
Right.
Correct.
You know what I mean? So this is something that we have to focus on and look at it like, hey, we got to dig a little deeper and know what's going on over here because there's men that are leaving and like, man, forget that. I'll see you when I see you.
Oh, we're talking policy now.
Yeah.
So I think when it comes down to just what's valued and what's respected as a man, being like emotional and nurturing isn't one of those things. Being honest about what you feel wasn't one of those things. What we as men, especially in the black community, what we value is aggression, right? So when you have a child, you don't have the space to be aggressive. So a lot of the times what happens, and this is studied, men who experience paternal postpartum depression, who didn't have a history of domestic violence prior to the pregnancy, post-pregnancy, because that aggression is valued, sometimes we can't control it. Now domestic violence is a part of our relationship. And that's not who we are at the core of us. We just want to be heard and seen, and people don't see us for what we are.
And I think earlier today I was having a conversation with a very good friend of mine, my guy Stefan, and he basically said exactly what you just said. Us as men, we are forced to man up, right?
Yep.
In the most toxic way, we are forced to man up,
real.
right? During this this season of your life, right? When ultimately the goal is to actually be able to talk about it, right? Like, why can't I say that, I'm actually jealous of my son, and you now call me every word in the book, right? Why can't I talk to my friend? Why can't I talk to a peer and say, hey, dude, like, this baby's stressing me out. And he's stressing me out because his mom is stressed out. Because remember, you're introducing a new person into your space, right? This is a new person. It's a completely new person. And you see the person stressing out the person that you love most. In any other circumstance, what do?
You step in.
You step in.
You step in. You protect.
But what do you do now when it's your child?
It's nothing you can do.
Driving her crazy, driving her nuts.
Right.
Yeah, it's nothing.
The person that's driving the person that you love most crazy, you actually have to go and soothe them and make them feel okay.
Yeah.
Which then brings us to something that we have to do, which is have a village.
Let's go.
You have to have a village. I believe that Miss Dion called them at Woombish villagers.
Villagers.
You gotta have your villagers, right? And this has to start in planning for pre-postpartum, right? You have to plan that. You have to plan this stuff, right? And this is one of the things that we just thought that we would just step into and then innately we would figure this out. Nah, you need to set boundaries, right? With certain family members.
Big boundaries.
Right? Number two, right? Because everyone thinks they can come over and hold a baby, right? Everyone thinks they can step into your space and be there, right? You also, one of the biggest misconceptions for me was that once the baby was born, it was up to me to do everything, which is not the case, right? We have to set roles for certain people. Say, hey, look, my mom's gonna do this, and my uncle's gonna do this, and my brother's gonna do this. They're gonna run to the store and grab the groceries, right? So it's not all on dad, right? Because when you think we're just a partner, it's just us two, and when I have this baby, I'm looking at you to do everything. It's like, nah, that's not the case, right? Because then that can also relieve the symptoms of postpartum, right? In the dad, right? Because he's not so stressed out. Because one of the things that we didn't talk about was a father feeling that he can't do this. A first-time father, like, I can't do this. This is too tough. I'm not going to be able to be the best father. I didn't have one. These are all the internal thoughts that this man may be thinking, right? So therefore, that may also have him to retreat from the home and be out to overwork himself, to indulge in different activities that he wouldn't normally indulge in, because he just feels like he cannot hold up this end of the bargain because it's too tough.
Dude, you talking my language. When Justice was born, my thought process was, I couldn't lose my job. Like now, I'm like, I could have lost it before. And I'd have been okay. I'd have been fine. I could not lose my job. Yo, when my son came home, I didn't drive them home. I went to work. Because I was like, oh no, we got medical insurance. Like, you understand what I'm saying? The things that my son needs, that my family needs at this time, is riding on me. So guess what I gotta be? Yes, sir, massa. I'm gonna be there. But at the same time, you're like, all right, I'm gonna be there. Innately, that that version and that person of you who wants to be the provider, who wants to be the protector, right? Innately it kicks in, but at the same time it's kicking in, the other part of you is kicking in too, right? Which is like,
this ain't for me.
no, it's not that it ain't for you. It's like, what is happening?
What's happening
Why
right
am I forced now? Now I'm forced. It's one thing when you're doing something and you're just doing it because all right, cool, I got to check this box. I got to go to work. But now it's like, yo,
It's go time.
have
The
to
baby's
go to
here.
work. The baby's here. The baby's here. It's go time. Whatever idea you was thinking about, now you're writing it. Like, it's a totally, once my son hit my hands, I knew automatically what my role and what my purpose was in life to him and to my family, right? I didn't carry it out the way everybody wanted it to be carried out. I carried it out in the best way that I knew how. And guess what? Unintentionally, right? It affected other people, right? Thank God, thank God we were able to overcome, certain things, and life presented other opportunities to make good of certain things. But to be quite honest with you, you talked about when London hit your arms, you just knew what it was, right? You knew what time it was. And I feel like us as dads, especially brothers like us, like I'm gonna say like me and Ace, who come from a space, right, where there was no dad there, right? So it's like, yo, where's our blueprint?
Wow.
What are the things that we need to do? So I'm just here trying to figure it out. And guess what? And if your spouse is somebody who come from a 2-parent household and that knows the drill, and they know the drill, they know what it's supposed to look like, and you over here fumbling the ball, like, yo, give me the rock, and you're brick every shot. You see what I'm saying? Then that creates more of a reason for postpartum depression in both the man and the woman.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
I think you brought a very good point with that as far as like your support system, right? What if one parent has a bigger or larger support system than the other parent? Then do they feel like they're lesser than? That I don't really need to be a part of this journey of what's going on, or I could just be a part-time parent. There's a lot of men that feel like that. How about for the men that don't live directly in the home with the partner? We spoke about it in another episode. Growing up, dude had a baby. Yo, congratulations. Dude lives here. Child lives over here
In
with
a
the
whole
mother.
different borough.
So it's in a whole. So it's so many different dynamic situations that people live in. So I mean, we can sit here and talk about ours and be like, listen, we were trying to do this, but there's some guys that are not even allowed the opportunity to be a real good dad, even if they want to. Right. And that's a big problem, because if a woman suffering from PBD, some people retreat and they're like, no, I don't need, the anxiety, I'm sorry, I don't need you helping me with the baby. I don't need you helping with the baby, holding the baby. You actually do.
You do.
And you're not allowing me to do so. And after a while, it's going to be like, well, you know what? I'm pushing so much. When am I going to get my opportunity?
Right.
And that creates depression within
And
the
that
brother.
creates
Yep.
hopelessness.
So, but that's
Homelessness. That's
right.
a good one.
Right. That's a good one. But that goes back to having that village and that support system, so you don't retreat. Somebody can talk you through it.
True.
So yeah, I think the support system is definitely key. I think mine wasn't in place. So yeah, it looked a little shaky. It was a little shaky. But it goes back to getting that advice or that support from older people who weren't necessarily in the child's life until, I mean, they were around, but they weren't like hands-on, like we would like to be hands-on, you know what I'm saying? So, it was crazy now I'm saying, talking about it. It was a study, I've been studying this since we met with Miss Anika. It was a study done by economists from 1965 to 2017. The father's time with the child went up an hour versus a woman, which was only 10 minutes. So men want to be more hands-on and be more nurturing.
Yeah.
So when you have a partner who's experiencing postpartum anxiety, who it kind of goes against what you naturally want to do. So you have to find ways, and that's why that support system is key. Non-toxic support system. Yes. Because in our neighborhoods, we don't know. In our communities, we don't know what's toxic and what's not, because we've never been there before.
Never been there.
I had nobody when I had Kaden. Like I had nobody, and I had to figure it out. And by the time I had Kason, it looked a whole lot different. a whole lot different. It looked a whole lot different.
Y'all want to talk about communication or no? One of the biggest conversations that we had in our postpartum training, and I tell you one of the, I would say one of the biggest values that we talked about in terms was unspoken expectations equals unmet needs. She said it about 100 times, drilled it in our heads, right? Because at the end of the day, if you don't communicate beforehand, and I think we alluded to this last episode, if you don't communicate beforehand your feelings to your partner communicate to you, what do you think is going to happen when the baby is here?
It's going to get worse.
It could get worse. It could potentially get worse, or it could potentially subside altogether, right? And I felt that was one of the things that, for me, I waited too late to have the communication, to let Ian know at the time, hey, I am feeling lonely. But she was like, bro, you've been already in the mix. It's too late for that, right? And it was a time that she didn't even know what she was going through, so it was hard for her to communicate to me what exactly was happening, which means that education has to be permanent, right? And she didn't communicate. She didn't know she was going through anxiety. I didn't know. Right? But if she knew, she could communicate, like, I'm really feeling anxious about, you know what I mean? Sometimes it's hard, right? To say I'm really feeling anxious about and fearful about me being a mom to this child. Like, I don't think I can do it, right? And sometimes that's hard to do, but it's a must do, right? You have to do that so that way we can try to figure it out. Because, again, what they say, unspoken expectations equals unmet needs. So communication is absolutely critical. Absolutely critical when it comes down to postpartum.
So I just kind of touched on it about the difference between Caden and Kaysen. When Caden came, I felt like when I first held him, I was like, yo, we got this. And I wasn't talking about his mom. I was talking about he and I. And then there was a bigger disconnect when KL came. And I was like, yo, I got a best friend for you. Talking about Caden. But I never saw... or acknowledged, because think about, she was pregnant with KL while Caden was still young. So while she was going through her hormones were imbalanced, she's pregnant again.
Double whammy.
Double whammy. So I didn't see it. So of course there was some turmoil, and locks got changed and all that stuff because I wasn't able to communicate what I needed from her. I just knew that what happened with Caden wouldn't happen again with KL because I was already out the house. So I retreated again. And then with Kaysen, what to me, what happened with Kaysen was, and I apologize to my guy, man. That's my dude. I got to, because for the first 4 months, I didn't like Young Bull. Like, his name was Young Bull. Like anybody, am I lying then? His name was Young Bull. But we were forced to connect, like, because I already had my team. You know what I mean? Like, me, Kaden, and KL was rolling. So when Kaysen came, it was like, yo, dude, like, little rookie dude, like, come on, Rook, like, you messing it up. We can't play the game how we supposed to play, how we used to play it, you in a way. So I was forced to connect with him on an emotional and I want to say spiritual level, because his mom went away for a weekend, and it was like, all right, dude, it was like a little pack, like, yo, listen, we got to make it till Sunday night. You with me? And it was pretty much like, yeah. And then what happened is we had that time to connect. And when his mom came back, he preferred me, and she hated it because for 4 months, here you go, here you go, here you go. That disconnect, because I had my team, but now he was a part of it. And believe it or not, that he's the most important of the team, because I needed to be more nurturing. Like, he gave me that nurturing aspect, and not just that nature aspect. I had to be that for him, and I was there to provide his needs, and he kind of shifted me and made me look at me as a person just over the course of a weekend, and then we just been rocking out ever since.
It tends to be like that. Like, once the first child, it's like you kind of like trying to figure everything out. By the time my daughter came, everything started to flow naturally. I saw all the signs. I read the writing on the wall, like, oh, I see this is about to come around. I know what to do now. So I kind of feel like that's what you had with your final son. Like it was rough in the beginning, but you was able to navigate through it and then just punch it home.
How was the level of communication your son then to your daughter and postpartum?
And once again, for my son, it was like, what's going on right now? I didn't even realize that I was going through some postpartum depression. The only thing that I knew is that I was retreating, and I knew I had a certain level of frustration. The only thing that I knew is that it was a force of habit for me. Anytime I knew I got frustrated or I was getting upset for whatever particular, I would work out. So I would work out, push-ups, sit-ups, like he was in jail. You know what I mean? Like, all right, let me get through this time right now. But after a while, I'm like, no, something was not sitting well with me during this pregnancy. But once again, when my daughter came, it was like, all right, now I kind of know how I'm feeling right now. I know when I'm going to get to a certain pinnacle and how I could overcome it. So communication was important, more vocal, and just more understanding. Even though sometimes you have to make a lot of compromises. Sure. We definitely have to swallow a lot sometimes. But you also have to be vocal about your feelings and how you feel. Like, I understand how you feel, but I also want you to understand how I feel.
So you was able to enhance that or increase that?
I was able to increase on with my daughter.
And do you think that it made a difference in how you guys got along or how you guys parented?
I think we agreed to disagree many a times, but later on it was like, all right, well, you know what? I'm going to respect certain things, the boundaries that you implement, and I'm going to, and vice versa. So we had an unspoken understanding, even though it was rocky, but we had to. I think with everyone, we would like to be in a perfect world, like everything is cheery and kumbaya, but sometimes you have to agree to disagree sometimes to move forward.
All right, bro.
How about you guys? How was communication with your partner during the time of postpartum?
Honestly, the communication there was none. I just followed. I was just there just to follow. Like whatever you said, I was gonna do. Because honestly, I had no experience. And you gotta understand, like my partner, she grew up in a 2-parent household. You understand what I'm saying? And not to mention, Nana don't play that. So Nana was very clear on what was going
Villager.
Yes. We had a very demanding villager who basically set the whole play for us. So for me, the communication when it came to my son, after his birth, there wasn't really much because I was more of a student. I'm like, yo, whatever you guys say, I'm going to do. Whatever disconnects happened, I think the disconnects happened from a cultural perspective, right? So, my partner is African American. I come from a Haitian Caribbean background. So so that for the most part clash, but at the end of the day, you're the mother. I'm following your lead, whatever you want.
Got you.
Let's agree to disagree.
I just agree with whatever you say. I'm just gonna do whatever you say. Whatever you want, yes ma'am. Whatever you need, yes ma'am.
I got you.
That's it.
It makes sense.
And that's how I moved. And some of the things that caused a little friction had more to do with my lack of understanding. It had more to do with my culture. In our culture, you here's the baby. I'll see you when I see you, right? Let me know if you need some diapers. Let me know if you need some milk. I'm gonna try to figure out something else. And she checked me on that. She checked me on it one day. She was like, you don't wake up during the middle of the night for the baby. There's certain things that you don't do. I got G-checked. And guess what I started doing? I started holding on to the baby. But I ain't gonna front like I feared doing that because I didn't want to be the person to hurt the baby.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? So my anxiety was, God forbid I do anything right now. This woman is going to kill me.
It's on you, yeah.
Right? So that was a little bit of my anxiety. That's why I fell back a little bit. It was more of a yes man. But the moment that, I was checked on it, I was like, okay, cool. I've been changing diapers. Like I got sisters, nieces, nephews. Yeah. I've done it. But that was I was a yes man, just to answer your question. Communication was yes.
Yes, I got you.
Yes.
So, and that makes sense.
So I also had that fear of hurting my boy, boys, but especially with Kaysen, we kind of, I kind of preferred after that weekend. Yo, come on, young, you can sleep with me, and it became like yo, what you mean? Like, no, go get some rest. We good over here. And then I think what it ultimately did was made her feel like she wasn't needed, even though she was. You know what I'm saying? So I had to figure out ways and be mindful of that, even though we had a relationship disconnect and a personal disconnect. I think just that I had to be mindful of it just to make her feel more connected to him post that weekend that we stayed together and built our bond. But that bond was definitely necessary. So postpartum in men is for real.
It's a real thing.
It's a real thing.
Yeah.
It's a real thing. It's a real thing, and it's happening all the time. I saw this quote that I just want to leave with us as we cap this off. It says, "Men need to recognize that depression is a medical condition. It's not a weakness of character."
Love that.
So with that being said, my village, Nana, if you're watching, thank you so much for all that you've done. My partner, you know the vibes.
You already know the vibes. And look, it's just some of the things that we can do really quick. Just wanted that men can do to help themselves if they feeling like they're going through or they want to prevent or try to prevent as best they can postpartum. Yoga. You know I'm hitting the plug.
Shameless
Yoga, meditation, running, reading, breathing exercises, music, journaling, words of affirmation, being grateful. We need to do just one thing once a day to keep from being overwhelmed.
That's it.
You know what? And speaking of that, we had a conversation, so this is coming soon. Yogi Den is going to be doing his thing online, so
Yes.
I'm let you speak to it. Let the people know.
So right now, the Corny Dads, every morning we meet at 6:30 in the morning and we practice yoga and then we do breathing exercises as well, right? So that way we can start our day fresh and with vigor, right? We want to get out there and be the best version of us that we can be. We want to reach our higher selves to the best that we possibly can, and it's been working for us. Am I wrong, fellas?
I feel good.
I feel good.
All right? We've been
Laser
having
like precision.
having some incredible experiences, right? It brings us closer together as a brotherhood, and that's just another thing that we want to put out there as well for postpartum, right? You want to have a team, you want to have brotherhood, you want to have brothers, right? You want to have somebody that you can lean on, somebody that you can talk to, and that's what we provide. And now we just want to open it up for our people, right? We want to open it up to our village, to our community, and that's coming soon. So stay tuned.
Pull up on the Corny Dads, man. I'm telling you.
Can you get up 6:30 in the morning?
They can.
I dare you.
They can.
So before we leave, I want to give a special thank you to Woomish.
Woomish.
Right.
Shouts out to them.
Because without them giving Dennis access to the session, we would not have had this information to relay to you guys. So shout out to Woomish. But in the meantime, but in the meantime, you already know. Stay corny.
Stay corny,
Stay corny,
y'all.
yeah.
Chill.
That's so corny.